Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us again. Welcome back to our channel. This is the Love is Healing channel, and in this channel we aim to teach you, show you, embody that love is in fact healing, that when we love ourselves we can love others better, and we can integrate, we can have more empathy, we can have open conversations, especially with those that we disagree with the most. And yeah, we aim to have respectful dialogue and open-ended questions, and just, again, building that empathy and those connections with other people, especially those that believe differently from us. Also, we focus on psychoeducation and all things trauma, spirituality, honestly, just what comes up. All right, please like, share, subscribe, and comment if you have any comments on this video. Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you don't already know me, my name is Magnolia and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I am the owner and founder of Love is Healing LLC, as well as the clinical director. I got new equipment. I said that in the last video. I don't know if they're going to be posted in order or not, but yeah, in celebration of having 100 subscribers and taking myself more seriously and taking this channel more seriously, and y'all taking me more seriously, I got some more equipment, so I'm excited. I got a new microphone. I got a couple of little mini microphones too, but I think I'm going to use those when I'm kind of recording videos on my phone. And I also have a little light, so I'm excited. If you notice an increase in quality in the recording of the video, I really would appreciate your feedback. That'd be really awesome. Let's see. Honestly, I'm just recording a video because I wanted to test out the equipment. But let's see what comes. Okay. I think I feel guided to just talk about this one. All right, cool. The notes that I wrote, girl, I have dozens and dozens of video ideas. I just have been collecting them for the past 3 years or more. Anyway, okay, this one is on division. It's easy to judge other people, but if we had the same life circumstances, we would also do the same things that said people are doing. Does that make sense? And so really it all comes down to empathy. I know that it's easy to judge, and if you were raised anything like me, I mean, I was raised Mexican, and the way that people connect is through gossiping, honestly. And so, right, it's really easy to judge other people. But think about it. So, like, let's say something that I heard growing up often was maybe the judging of homeless people, right, unhoused, of homeless people, and it's like, oh, look at those drunkards or drug addicts or whatever. It's like, okay, well, one, that's sad, isn't it? They don't have a home? Isn't that sad? Why are you being mean? These are my thoughts as a kid. Then also, like, they're drug addicts. Gee, that sounds scary. And then they're alcoholics. Oh, don't you drink alcohol? What's the difference between you and them? And then why are you hating on them, right? But anyhow, what I've learned in particular about addiction is that any kind of addiction, and it can be, yes, to a substance or alcohol or pornography, right? It's substance addiction or process addiction. A process addiction is like, I'm addicted to a certain process, right? So say watching pornography or gambling or anything like that, right? Watching Netflix, playing video games. And so what I've learned, and I would like to credit my EMDR consultant. Like, I've learned it, I suspected it, and then he was like, yep, that's it. And he specializes in treating addiction, but he was saying that addiction is basically stemming from neglect. So as children, we did not experience safe, consistent, attuned caregivers. And because of that, we end up addicted to substances, processes, things like that instead. And yeah. So then in this case, the alcohol or the drugs serve as pseudo attachment figures. And if you look at Gabor Mate's work, he says the same thing too. So that's interesting. But right, it's like, man, like I've seen some people personally, again, if you haven't watched my videos, I talk about personal situations, including myself and my family, rather than clients, just because I think it's not cool for me to talk about clients. And so it's like, yeah, well, how did so-and-so end up addicted to, say, alcohol? Well, they experienced tons of abuse growing up. That makes sense, okay? I experienced some abuse too, but not that kind. And they feel suicidal. Okay, I felt suicidal in the past too, but I had supports to help me through it, and they don't. So how can I really judge, is what I'm saying. Because I don't know. I haven't walked a mile in their shoes, right? Or 10. Or thousands of miles in their shoes. So, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to step into some tricky waters here and see what happens. I think... let me see how to handle this. Let's just talk about being transgender, okay? I think whatever our beliefs are really have a lot to do with our peers and how we were raised, and I guess what messages we learn about certain things, right? So for me growing up, I was raised Catholic, sure, and I was raised that being gay is bad, but there weren't really trans people back then, right? There were drag queens, but they weren't terribly common, so we didn't talk about them. My family was just like, okay, they're weird, and that's it. But I mean, I never saw anything like that growing up. And then I went to college, and then I took this class, and then they were talking about how transgender is a thing, right? But it's like, this was back in 2011, so it wasn't terribly common. It is now, right? But it's like, okay, that's really special. I mean, like, unique. I mean, like, if someone's trans, there's a reason why they're trans, or there's several reasons why they're trans. And it's like, in a way, people do their due diligence as they choose to step into that and deepen into that identity, right? So cool. Graduated college, and then I had a couple of friends. Actually, the first two people I ever knew who were trans were in the military. I know one is no longer in the military. I don't know if the other one is in the military still. Nonetheless, one was female to male and one was male to female. And school was interesting. It's like, good. You have support. You're in the military. Like, they're helping you. You're getting mental health services. You like your therapist. That's awesome, right? And I wasn't terribly privy to the process that they underwent, but I know that they were pretty supported. And keep in mind, I'm speaking about the military, right? So again, if you're on this channel, the whole point of this channel is to help bridge gaps between people and to like identify and address misconceptions, right? So what is the military known for? It's known for being really conservative and maybe for being, I know bigoted isn't a word, but, you know, bigot-like or, I don't know, racist, sexist, whatever, stuff like that. Just conservative, just hateful, I guess, right? Ignorant, we'll say that. I've definitely heard people call people in the military ignorant. People in academia call people in the military ignorant. So then there's that. And so, right, keeping that in mind, it's like these two people were part of my extended social network, right? One was a friend. The other one was I guess I would call them both friends, but we weren't terribly close, I guess, just because life circumstances. It's not that I didn't want to be closer to them. We were just busy, and I was in graduate school and stuff like that, so it's hard to find time. But yeah, actually, I ended up going to one of them's weddings, and that's how I met my husband, indirectly. my now husband. So anyhow, I digress, but it's pretty interesting. My mind is kind of like firing a lot. And then right? But it's like, I think, so keep in mind at this point, most of us were millennials, if not all of us. And it's like people who surrounded these people, coworkers primarily, all just had questions. No one cared about it, in that, like, no one was personally invested in hating on them. Nobody was personally invested in judging them that I know of, right? There are people who maybe thought it was disingenuous, but that I know of, there weren't people who were like overtly, oh man, my words are gone today. It's just like big words want to come, but I'm like, I don't want to use that. Also, I can't remember what the word is. Basically who are openly hateful and judgmental, right? Plus, I think on top of that, because they were so beloved by their coworkers, they were protected. So it's like if anybody tried to bully them, they'd be like, hey, stop. Which I think is pretty cool. At least that's my impression, right, of what happened. So, I mean, I didn't experience any of that to be the case. And I think that's great, right? And then after that, I want to say I haven't met a ton of trans people, actually. Probably had maybe a client that was trans, and that's it. But yeah, I maybe had one coworker. Going back, when I was in high school, I hung out a lot with a lot of band. Let me see, a lot of artsy people. So people in theater and choir and band, right? And there were a lot of queer people in that, if not, I mean, a lot. Like, I'm not gonna say all of them, maybe half. It was a lot, right? And I was just surrounded by a lot of love and tolerance and stuff like that, and nobody cared. That's what I'm saying. And I know this isn't everyone's experience, which is unfortunate, and it's upsetting, and really this is why I'm making the video. But no one cared. They're like, hey, what's up? You're cool, this and that, whatever. I'm gay. Okay, sounds good. Continuing the conversation, I'm lesbian, I'm queer, I'm pansexual. I think that was kind of queer and pan were, I want to say, I started hearing it more and more like maybe 2010. It's funny because it's like I've just seen so much kind of transform, right? I've been alive, as probably most of you have here. Like, I think I was an adult, right? I think like 2015, I researched it the other day, is kind of when, I guess I wasn't an adult, never mind. But if it was 2015, then I think that's about when gay marriage started to be legalized in the United States. Lots of thoughts. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm grateful that, you know, it's really funny, actually. I don't know. I think I feel really confused by society these days. And I think that's predominantly because, let me move the mic. Predominantly because people say that people are really judgmental and hateful and things like that. And I guess on one level, I do believe that we attract our experiences, because I see that even people who neighbor me do have different experiences than I. Mine tend to be very cohesive, loving, supportive, etc. On another hand, I'm from a place where everyone, basically 90% or more of people, were Mexican American, and we all got along, and it didn't matter what your class was or kind of grades you were or what clubs you were in. Everybody was just like, hey, we were all from the same place. And just, I guess, I feel like we weren't taught to hate. And this is up until high school. And then in college, I think it was a similar thing. And I went to the most, at the time, diverse university in the country, maybe the world. And it's like, no one cared. No one cared to hate each other. Like, everybody was like, oh, you're from where? Okay. You're Jewish, Muslim, Catholic, Christian, atheist. Okay, cool. Fine. Sounds good. Like, it wasn't a big deal. So I think that's why I feel so confused by what the media says by and large, because I just haven't seen it. And then like being around the military, I'm gonna say for about 13 years now, fairly intimately, it's the same. The way that they're programmed, trained, what have you, is to be highly tolerant of other people. It's like, hey, at the end of the day, we need you to have your fellow airmen's back or fellow soldiers back, right? And that's the way it is. Like, cool. Oh, well, you're racist and they're colored. Oh, well, gotta suck it up kind of thing, which is true. It kind of forces them to address their biases because they have to work together, which I think is pretty cool, honestly. What else can I say? Right. So I think with like trans people in particular, it's such a hot topic, and like I don't understand why on some level. Like on some level I'm like, I get it. People are mean. On another level, so to the people who support trans people, I'm like, I get it. People are mean and rude. Also, regardless of where you are, what you do, people are going to be mean and rude. Doesn't matter if you're famous, honestly. People still hate you sometimes. So it's just a fact of life. I saw someone, I didn't like it, but they're also, it's true. They said something about like, if you're human, then basically like, well, you're going to be experiencing these adverse experiences, right? I don't say that to minimize. I'm speaking very logically. And then on this other side, for people who don't support trans people, I'm like, okay, but they're not telling you to be trans. So can you just leave them alone? Also, what do you gain from being hateful? Also, like, doesn't matter what you say, they're not going to stop and conform to what you're saying. So really, to me, I'm like, it sounds like a perfect opportunity for radical acceptance, right? Period. Then I wonder if these people and these people both practice radical acceptance of like, all right, cool. People can be hateful, and I'm going to cultivate resiliency and value myself enough to like not let things get to me and surround myself by a lot of love and supportive people and things like that. Then they're going to vibe in a different way. And then it's going to be like, it doesn't matter that other people are hateful, throwing shade. And if they are, then great. Being at a place where you can set boundaries and things like that, right? And then again, if you're surrounded by a lot of loving people, then like creating safety, traveling with other people, maybe not going places alone, which I know isn't awesome. Who wants that? Also, several other populations are forced to do that, right? Women are forced to do that at times. Children are forced to do that. In some places, gay people are forced to do that. Period. Then, like, on this side, okay, they're not going to change. And let's say someone has biblical views, and that's why they're saying, like, being trans is bad. Okay, these are your views. And so healthy boundaries are for you to acknowledge that these are your views, and then you live your life according to your values and your views. And then I'm speaking to people, if they believe in the Bible, then be like Jesus and be love and things like that. And yeah, be truthful, but also like respect other people's decisions to have free will. And I know pagans believe in free will, and so many other kind of faith traditions believe in free will. So it's like, okay, well, you're not going to change the people, just let them be, Those are my thoughts, really. Then also, okay, this video is way longer than I thought it'd be, but oh well. So there's some other stuff that I've been thinking a lot about. I live in America, the United States of America. One, I love this country. I think it's amazing. My parents moved here for opportunities, and I took that seriously, and I've taken advantage of all these opportunities, and I love this country. And also I want to move back to Mexico at some point because I love Mexico also and want to experience that. That said, though, I've only traveled to Mexico and Japan, and I've seen, I don't remember the word because I tend not to like the word. Let me look it up real quick. Pretty sure it's indigent. Oh well, it froze. Wait. have too many things connected to this laptop right now. Is it indigent populations? Come on. Yeah, indigent just means poor and needy. Okay, sure. Maybe that's not the word I'm looking for. But like super poor, dirt poor, like I don't know how I'm making a living poor. And it's like, okay, there's this thing called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, okay? Okay. Now, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you look it up, it's a little triangle, and like it has different rungs, and then it talks about different needs. The lower you are means kind of the more unmet needs that you have, the more in survival mode you are. And the closer to survival mode you are, you're focused on surviving. So it's like you're not up here kind of, and I believe that most of the world is down here in the bottom 1 or 2 rungs, right? And then in America, our standard by and large is above the bottom 2 rungs. And I think it's important to highlight that because, man, as much as some people, I get it, right? I'm a social worker. I'm gonna say this. I'm a social worker, and I take my ethics very seriously. My supervisees, my staff hear me harp on that all day long. And I'm also a Sag rising, if that matters to anyone. But girl, yes, integrity is everything to me, and my Jupiter's in Sagittarius also. So that's not true. My Jupiter's in Cancer, but definitely my rising is in Sag. And I think Americans have the time and space, the resources to get internet, to be able to look things up, to buy Audible, to read books, to look at articles and things like that. They have time, energy, resources, information. There's a lot basically at our disposal as Americans, right? And even our level of poor is still way different than it is in a lot of countries. Okay, and I think that's important to consider also because social media is so much about opinions, right? I mean, I'm here sharing my opinion, my clinical opinions, sociological opinions. It's different. Our levels of poverty are different. If you go to a third world country, and yes, I've only been to Mexico as a third world country, but I've spoken to plenty of people from other countries that are third world, and it's very similar. It's like to the point where you don't have running water. And yeah, I mean, think of Africa, like you have to go downhill and then come back up the hill or whatever, and it takes you half a day to get enough water for the day, and then you have to go back, right? So it's different. It's different. I'm sure that those people in third world countries in deep, deep poverty that way are dreaming about like, oh man, I can't even imagine what life would be like if I had running water, right? Versus like, oh, let me hate on liberals or let me hate on conservatives. It's different. And everyone's just focused on surviving. And I plan on making more videos that allude to that and speak to that because, man, I think, okay, I'm going to say this. Again, I love being American, right? So I've met people from different countries who've said that Americans are seen as being very self-centered and snobby. And yes, we're known as being a very individualistic society. I think Canada is also an individualistic society, and maybe Australia, and maybe the UK. Maybe, I'm not sure. It's been a while too, but by and large, many cultures in the world are collectivistic cultures, so they care a lot about the whole, right? And they just function differently. So it's like, yes, on that level, okay, sure, psychologically, we are individualistic, so by default, that is kind of selfish. It's self-centered. It's self-centered. And so, sure. But then also, I think we have a lack of humility because true humility is knowing that you're neither better than someone else and you're neither less than someone else. It's like we are all kind of on an equal playing field and we all have struggles. And that's it. And my struggles are different from yours. And I will never know what it's like to be in your shoes because I'm not you and you're not me. And we accept that kind of thing. So tying it back to the video, title itself is like, right? We can judge if we want to. I just don't really understand what we gain other than to maybe try to make ourselves feel better. But ultimately, spiritually speaking, we're being unkind, and so we're throwing that energy out there, and like we're gonna get the same energy. And if we're judging if we're judging other people harshly, that's because we judge ourselves harshly. So that's important to note. I can't think of any exceptions. You're welcome to find some. I can't think of any exceptions. So if you're judging yourself harshly, that tends to stem from your parents and your family of origin, or caregivers, family of origin, judging you really harshly. So there are a lot of wounds there that are untouched. And this stands for both sides. This stands for, oh, I support trans people and like everyone else is awful. Or like, I don't support trans people and everyone else is awful. On either side, that's a lot of judgment. Judgment, shade. So then that's important to notice. I've been there. We've all been there. Most of us have been there. I'm not going to say I've been like overly hateful because that's not my style. And I don't like that. I wasn't raised that way. And I've seen the damage. More importantly, it's just like, wow, that's really harsh. Why would you do that? Why would you say that about somebody? Like, wow, that's someone's kid, Anyhow, it's just some food for thought. So different concepts that I covered were mindfulness, essentially, like paying attention to your thoughts, your values, what you stand for, things like that. And then also distress tolerance skills. So when someone triggers you because they say something because they believe differently than you, okay, acknowledge that. Oh, I'm triggered. Great. Why am I triggered? Think about it. Take some time. Great. And then go heal those wounds if you can, right? Seek support, research stuff on it, and then you practice distress tolerance skills as a whole if you're wanting to heal this, right? And if you're wanting to be the change you see in the world, because as you start to be this person, you're going to start attracting people who are the same, and then teaching other people who want to be more regulated, we'll say, kinder, we'll say, more neutral, we'll say. And so as you do that, then you start to have this influence in your sphere of influence and this trickle effect. And then little by little, that's how change happens. And then eventually we reach that number that, oh man, I can't think of that number. The number where it's like you hit a certain number and then like kind of it impacts the whole collective unconscious, critical mass. Eventually we start to reach a critical mass, and then we start to see evolutions in consciousness. So it starts with you. Change starts with you, right? If you have any follow-up questions, ask us. But yeah, mindfulness, distress tolerance skills, create them triggered, let me regulate, figure it out, work through it, etc. Cool. All right. And then eventually getting to a point where you have radical acceptance. Hey, these people don't like me. Oh, well. Hey, these people don't like me. Oh, well. Okay. Right? Let me find my people then. You can choose to focus on the negative. You have the free will to do that. You have the free will to not change at all whatsoever. And that's fine. It's your birthright. Also, if you choose to take accountability and to shift your perspectives and behaviors, your life will change. And as you shift your focus on what it is you're focusing on, your life will change. I'll say I was in a dark place, I don't know, the past 2 years. 2 years, really? Sorry, I know I'm mumbling. My mouth is really dry, but I don't want to grab water. It's a whole thing. So, yeah, but I noticed that I was hanging out with people who were very negative, by which I mean they complained a lot. And, like, really that's the way that they connected, is that they complained a lot. So I noticed practicing mindfulness. And then I sat in pre-contemplation for a long time. And then I was like, oh, yeah, maybe I don't want this. I don't like the experiences I'm attracting. So then I started to shift my perspective. I really went inside. I journaled. And I realigned my values. And then I was like, all right, cool. These are the type of people that I want to be around and want to attract. So let me focus on that. And then, surely enough, here I am now. And I made that decision, I want to say a month and a half or 2 months ago, and now I'm surrounded by people who have my similar values, which is cool. I'm not saying it's an echo chamber, but I'm saying like they have similar values in that they speak life into each other and support each other in things rather than downlifting them, bringing them down. Yeah. So anyhow, I get it. I hope this video was useful in any kind of way. If you have any questions in general, topics that you'd like us to cover, etc., please feel free to comment below, and we would love to hear from you. And thank you for supporting us, and it's an honor to be here and serve you all. All right, go out there, go be the change you wish to see in the world, or not. Bye. As always, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. Please give us a like, share, subscribe. And you can find us at loveishealingllc.com for any bookings, trainings, collaborations, things like that. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and our handle is at loveishealingllc. Take care, everyone.